Sadhguru has that one quote that I love so much where he's like, if you have mastery over your body, you can control about 15% of the outcomes that happen to you. If you have mastery of your mind, you can control about 50% of things that happen to you in your life. And if you have mastery of your whole soul, you're living in peace with yourself, then nothing can touch you.
Because it doesn't matter. Then you're not trying to control it.
What's the name of this podcast? It's called Holding It Fiercely, because fuck 'em. That's why. Get huge, get cut,
make money,
make
yours,
money.
Baby. I can imagine that's when you can get to the place where it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't define your worthiness. You can hold it all a lot lighter, and then it doesn't become so important.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a little mired today.
A little tired?
Tired, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good.
The afternoon heat just hit me.
It is really hot.
Yeah.
I got bad news for you, though. The thing we're talking about today is not being tired ever.
The thing we're talking about is get crushed, stay crushed.
Yeah. So we talked last week. And last week was all about letting things happen, going with the flow, not being attached to outcomes.
Slowing down.
The importance of slowing down and rest and relaxation.
Sitting.
Yeah.
Like, how do you sit?
How to sit.
To sit, literally. Right. Yeah. How to find peace in the sitting, and how to not have to do. And what is the Thich Nhat Hanh thing? Like the opposite of...
that we say, don't just sit there. Don't just sit there. Do something.
Right.
He's like, don't just do something.
Sit there. Right.
Let's turn it on. Like, there's a power in turning it on his head.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And it's also not the whole story. So you reached out a few weeks ago. You sent me a text. You're like, I want to do a 2-parter episode about the power of relaxation and allowing things to be, and also how it has this other side to it that we have to honor, which is the juice is worth the squeeze. There's things on the other side of personal empowerment and resiliency. There's a beauty in that great podcast being called "We Can Do Hard Things." It's not just we can sit here. We can sit
do nothing.
Yeah, I mean that would also be a great and powerful podcast too.
Right.
But that's not the whole game. So
yeah.
I like that it's broken up into 2 parts.
Yes. And I think that we have been talking about everything from career and personal growth and physical fitness and moving our bodies.
Yeah.
And I think that we've been sort of going back and forth about like this, the 2 sides of the coin of sitting and being at peace and simultaneously putting righteous energy towards planting seeds that are going to bloom for things that you would like to bloom.
Right. And I like the way you put that, because that isn't just money.
Right.
Our minds sometimes go there. Like, oh, you mean planning for the future? And it's like, no, this can be anything that you want to have growth from, you know? One of the big things is, I forgot who said it. I think it was Meher Baba was saying, love is not for the faint of heart. And I think that, like, I'm experiencing a lot with relationships around me, both in my life and ones that I'm talking to people about, of like, to have a really good relationship requires some toughness and vulnerability. Both toughness of like, we need to go here to this level to talk about this thing that's really uncomfortable, like discomfort. It's I think as you become more resilient in your life, then you can handle uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable things a lot better. And that is at the core of meeting your partner there, right?
Yeah. And also your, like, the surface level, when relationships are too surface level, like that is when you see them ending so fast, or you see, I've had friends or even myself jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, right, because it wasn't working out. And so the fastest way to like remedy that is just to find a new partner, instead of like digging in and having a little tenacity and like, again, planting seeds, putting your energy into the things that you would like to to grow.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Right. And the
and
discomfort and
there's some discomfort. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know, I think that one of the things we've talked about a couple times is this advice is not a monolith
Mm.
TikTok culture of very quotable bite-sized
Mm.
things that you can be like, yeah, get up and grind, or actually curl up in your bed and that's okay too, or the
Mm.
case for canceling plans, or like, right,
Yeah.
we talk about sort of this like, and I think what we're trying to communicate and talk through and learn through together is this idea of like, how do you hold both
Yeah.
and make space for both in your life? How
Yeah.
do you both rest and have tenacity and discipline
Right.
to put into the things that like you want to see bloom?
Right. Right. In fact, it could even be argued that like the act of setting time aside and being tenacious about giving yourself rest can be kind of real. Some people can be ruthless, is what I'm getting at, about setting time aside and using it really wisely. Of I'm not going to have my phone bother me, even if I'm watching a movie. I don't mean sitting with candles around meditating. I mean, like, it's time for me to watch a movie. I'm going to actually do this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? This important email or call is coming in from work, but I'm here at the beach with my family. um, I'm gonna have to put my foot down on this, and that can be kind of like a powerful way of going towards your relaxation, right?
Yeah.
So, um, you mentioned one thing earlier. Do you want to talk about uh, health?
Yeah, sure.
Health is
Yeah.
a lot of what I've been learning in the past year or so has kind of been through you, I would say. You have a very good, I say, healthy mindset towards your health in general, both from the things you put in your body to the way that you move your body, right? And tell me, how has that kind of changed for you through some of this work?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things we've talked about is like advice is not a monolith.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Enneagram before and how each person has each of us have different ways that we've built up our personality to protect ourselves,
Mm.
things that have worked for us in the past as like probably trauma response or something like that. So we've built up these like personalities
Yeah.
and ways that we cope with the world. And so I think that for each person, there's going to be different things that you have to focus on and work on. And I think for me, I I always had a very like all or nothing mind frame. So I would be like, um, and sort of like, I would say almost more all than nothing.
Mm.
So I would go all out drinking with my friends, having the best time ever. And then I would wake myself up at 6 a.m. and I would go to Barry's boot camp and I would go all out on my body.
Right.
And then I would go all out at work. And then I would come home and I would do that 6 days in a row. And then I'd wonder why I was so like tired and cranky on the weekends.
Yeah.
And so then I had to, I don't know. I think like just taking it back to the health thing in particular, back to that question, I think that I had to learn then that balance of how do we rest? How do we do things that are better for our bodies? How do we think about movement in a way where it's not so much about like, oh, I have to punish myself because I ate, a whole pizza by myself last night and drank, 10 beers. So I got to punish myself at Barry's boot camp and like have a little bit more of a healthy relationship with all of that, where it's like holding it all a little like more lightly.
Yeah.
And so I have definitely changed the way that I think about, the intensity, like dialing it down a bit and
Right.
like thinking about, okay, well, what do I want to put my energy and effort into? Do I want to put my energy and effort into movement that makes me feel really good?
Mhm.
Now I wake up and I think like, oh, what does my body need today? I woke up today and I was like, I think I need a rest day.
Yeah.
I've been going 7 days straight. I think it's time for a rest day.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just more in the relaxing,
Right. Right.
sort of like relaxing and letting your body tell you like,
Listen.
oh, you know what? Today I just really feel like getting after
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
I don't know.
Listening to it, I fully agree with this. Actually, you kind of went into a place that I want to hear more people talk about. Especially, there's a lot of discussions in our world right now about fat phobia and about, are we accepting of body types, and are we all these kind of things. Do we require that people must push their body or work out or something like that? And to me, I feel like a lot of this discourse is sort of missing the discussion. So both of us do work out and we do take care of our bodies, and that is important. It is important to us. But you also talked about being like, what if it's not done out of like fear or motivated by like pushing myself and
Punishment.
punishment and all this stuff? What if we're looking at it from a positive standpoint about like how when do I feel my best? And it's when I'm in right relationship with my body, and it's when my body is being used healthfully, and it's when my mindset around all of it is also positive. So I have a friend named Lauren Hope Crass, and she has a podcast as well. She actually works for Betches, and she has a podcast. I think it's called Our Diet Starts Tomorrow. She's great. She's so funny. She's a wonderful person. And she is overweight, and a lot of it talks about body positivity, body acceptance, and stuff. And she has also been a little bit on her journey of sometimes she goes long periods of time without really any exercise or restriction on what she eats. And then other times she's like, oh, sometimes I move in this direction because I feel better and all this stuff. But she had a post just a couple weeks ago, and I thought that it was really just beautifully put as part of the discourse, especially for someone that has this kind of position within the discussion of like overweight and working out and stuff. And she says, thinking about how we were brainwashed to think exercise was about punishment and conforming to a beauty standard, when in reality, it's just a really great way to improve overall health regardless of weight loss.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that
And
is
to
kind
feel
of,
good, right? It
and to
feels
feel
good
good.
to
Yeah.
stretch. It feels good to walk. It feels good to
Hmm.
dance. It
Yeah.
feels
And
healthy.
sometimes it feels great to push it real hard
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Totally separate of like, I find sometimes where I'm like, oh, I need to work on this muscle set more or whatever, or like, oh, I really need to cut back on this. And then I'm sort of like, no, Brad, that's not how I want to talk to my body. That's not how
Mhm.
like I want to be in a great relationship with my body where I'm like, look at how amazing this is, that when I do find myself flowing in this certain way, my body responds and it
Mhm.
heals itself over time if it needs to.
Right.
And like it's amazing to me, and I feel really really great about that. And part of my argument about uh do we need overweight people to work out or not? Like I'm sort of sitting here and being like, I feel like I would still work out even if, let's say, we lived in a world where no amount of working out would change how you looked at all
Right.
whatsoever. I would still do it because I feel it when I'm at my best. I think it was Dr. Peter Attia that was saying, he's like, imagine I were to tell you that there was a medicine you could take that would lower your blood pressure, improve your sleep, improve your sex, improve your focus, improve your mental and physical resiliency. He goes down the whole list, improve your digestion, one thing after the next. You would be like, sign me up. Where do I go? Where do I get this magic pill? And he's like, well, it's exercise. And like,
Mhm.
that's how I feel about, I do. And I feel so much more clear and so much more empowered.
Mhm.
I told you Richard Rohr, because he's a 1 on the Enneagram. He says he prays for one small, what is it? Not indignation,
Humiliation.
one small humiliation every day. And me as a 9, which often has, a sort of laziness tack to it, I need one difficult thing for me to do each day, even if it's I
Mm.
sent that email that was uncomfortable, or I went into the gym and fucking blew it out and like listened to my body in that way and
Mhm.
pushed it.
Yeah.
But like that is how I get into a better right relationship with myself.
I feel
So
like for me, it should be like one thing that I didn't do.
yeah,
Yeah, like one thing I edited out of my calendar
one thing you
every
took
day.
one thing you took away.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it doesn't fully apply here, but Meister Eckhart says that spirituality is more about subtraction than addition. But that's a little
Yeah,
heavier than we
absolutely.
need to hear. But like
Yeah.
it's paring down to
Yeah, it's
to
also goes back to the things that you need for yourself and like who, your motivations, right? I think sometimes like the physical fitness instructors that I follow, or the people that are the advice givers, the David Gogginses of the world that are like, get up and crush. It's again, that's advice that some people might need. Some people might need to make an appointment in their calendar every day and like hold it there so that they can move their body um, and have the goal of running the marathon so that they keep themselves accountable and whatnot. And some people might not need that. Some people might need to do less. Some people might need to do, I think for me, like my growth path is sober joy. Part of that path for me is not overdoing it on anything. And that includes exercise. That includes being too focused on like my diet or my, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's almost an obsession around whatever the thing is, being sober and finding sober joy in whatever the thing is that I'm doing is my path forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with the working out thing, it was always a punishment. It was always a well, I'm going to do this tonight, so I got to like crush it at the gym this morning.
Yeah,
or,
so you would have those conversations with yourself about
absolutely.
like, I want the margaritas tonight, so I better kick my ass
Yes.
tonight and tomorrow, which goes back to kind of this notion of shame, right? And this notion of not enoughness that we've spoken about. And that is, so I agree with the discourse when some people are like, hey, let's be more body positive and let's stop shaming and stuff. I'm sitting here being like, yeah, I don't want that to be running the show here. And people that are making someone who maybe is overweight or something like that feel that way, I don't think that's helpful. And I don't think it's helpful because I've been there before too. I want pizza tonight and I want beer and I want blah, blah, blah. That can be okay on its own. If that happens, if that's part of what I am deciding for myself.
And for me, I used to think that it was balance, but it wasn't balance.
Right.
It was
addition, subtract. It was balancing like a checkbook, not balanced like I'm living in.
Right. I wasn't doing it because I really wanted to move my body and it felt good. I was doing it because, again, as you said, as like balancing a checkbook where it's like calories in, calories out.
Right. And being militant about it is how I maintain control, right?
Well, and then it gave me permission to, like, gluttony is the passion of a 7. And so it gave me permission for my gluttony because I was balancing the checkbook on the other side. Hey, but that was also gluttony.
I'm coming in with a negative here. Therefore, I can put a lot of positive in the night.
That's right. But both of those are gluttonous.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's so desirous, right?
Those
it's all
are
built around
desirous. Yes.
Desire. Desire is the root of all suffering. That's the Buddha. And like that. Yeah. And so I'm seeing you hold this, more easily and more lightly and stuff. And also talk to me, like, how has that impacted your overall health? I know we're focusing on health right now and we'll move to other topics.
Yeah.
But also your health right now is great. And you're seeing a longevity doctor, right?
Yeah. I've seen a longevity doctor. I also read Peter Attia's book Outlive, which is all about how do you essentially add years to your life and life to those years. So making sure when you're 80, you can still go get your groceries, pick up your grandkids. And so he has
what a wealth will that be, by the way?
That is such a wealth.
Real. What a wealth.
That's wealth. That's true wealth. Because to be 80 and sitting in, unable to move your body because you didn't work your muscles out enough and they started to atrophy and, all of the knock-on effects. Basically, he says that like by age 40, 50, we should have a plan for age 80 and we should be executing against that plan. And that's kind of his, again, it depends on who
you're talking to.
Who gets attached to that information, right? Because that could also, again, go back into, that could be gluttonous. That could be an Enneagram 1 taking it and being, using it as like a shaming mechanism for themselves.
It could be you're buying another 40 years of sickness.
100%.
Like mental sickness.
It could be an Enneagram 3 being like, I'm going to be the most attractive, best looking 70-year-old there is. You know what I mean? Like this could all go into like running it through your own system. Could also be, I think what I've started to realize for me is that if I can approach my entire life with the idea of looking at things in a more healthy way.
Yeah.
For me, being obviously, like I said, sobering way, a more
Yeah.
sober, thoughtful, calm,
A little bit detached,
peaceful
healthfully detached.
way, then I can then I know that I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's health and fitness we're talking about, or career,
Right.
or plans for the weekend with my friends, or anything, right? It all
Right.
is going to fall into like this place where I'm coming at it from a place of health instead of a
Yeah.
place of like, well, I have to live till I'm 80 because I'm afraid of death.
Right.
Or because I
Right.
want to still be attractive when I'm 75, or whatever the reason might be that my personality is pushing
Right.
that out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What's her name? Help Thanks Wow.
And Lamont.
Anne Lamott was saying that she was like, yeah, all the spiritual work that you've done is for nothing unless it makes you more patient. She says, or also generous. But truly, like what's the point of all of this, like kicking your own ass and shaming yourself if it's not actually helping you live bigger and more healthfully? And I think that my workouts have gotten better when I'm like a little more detached from it and a little bit less write down every day what you did and you didn't do enough and you
Right. Right. Food journaling and all of that stuff, right? Like for some,
right
again, for some people that might be
might be that might be
great.
that
And
might be
for
the
other
bullet. I
people
understand. I
that might
understand.
be not great for them. It
And
depends.
I think that there are some people that might be amazing for it. If that's a tool that's really effective for you. And I think that also, especially with this like American Western ideal, there's a lot of people that have you got to pay attention to if you're thriving under the way that you're doing these kinds of things. So we applied that to things like health and working out, but I think that it applies to kind of anything of like of work
Well,
and
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, I don't want this to be the Lauren show, but like for
oh
for
please.
work, I had that same debits and credit system
Okay.
that we were just talking about with fitness
Tell me about it.
was the same thing I had for work,
Okay.
right? It was like, okay, I'm going to work really hard on this thing, like like you know, put wait till the last minute, procrastinate, and then put all of my effort into this thing, kill myself, and then I'm not going to do anything at work for the next 3 days. Whatever, right? Like,
Okay,
you know
okay.
what I mean? Or I was like constantly like, well, this job sucks. I need to find another one
Uh-huh.
because like the moment wasn't good enough.
Okay.
The job wasn't good enough. It was always like grass is greener in my head, and
Right.
so now I'm like growing up and I'm starting to calm the fuck down, and
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, well, every job has ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's all about the, like, as we've said before, the shit sandwich that you're willing to eat
Yeah.
and that you
Right.
can eat,
Right.
right? It's like, okay, it's all gonna we have to do a difficult thing every day, right? Everything's gonna,
Everything, you're never going to be completely rid of problems.
because that's life.
Yeah.
If you had no problems, you wouldn't be living your life. You would be unhappy.
Right.
Part of being a human being is having problems. That's why sometimes the richest, the most powerful, the kings and queens and princesses of, are not happy
Right.
because they don't have problems.
Right. Right.
And so
Ooh.
that's part of living. That's part of dukkha. That's part of like the life that we all get to live.
Yep. It brought me back to the beginning of this. This is 100 pages. So there's no way I'll find it, but there's a great quote by Eckhart Tolle that essentially was, here we go. If all of your suffering was miraculously removed for you today, but you would not become more present, more conscious, you would soon find yourself with a similar suffering.
Right. Right. And that goes to it's not about the situation.
Right.
It's not about your life situation.
Right. Right. So it's a little bit of how you do anything is how you do everything. That's a Richard Rohr thing.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah. So he talks about it in two things. He says how you do anything is how you do everything. And he's talking about, are you present? Are you in your body? Are you loving? Is your purpose and your reason for doing these things, are they all integrated and part of one thing? This is how you do everything. He talks about that one monk that he was so present in the moment, just in deep life, like living prayer, that people used to travel and watch him do anything. He would
Peel
garden,
potatoes.
peel potatoes or garden or whatever, and people would just watch him because he was just in bliss in the moment. The other corollary that Richard Rohr says, he goes, if you don't have the ability to love everything, I doubt that you have the ability to love anything.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, go fucking sit with that on a on a desert island for a while, you
Huh.
know?
Wow.
Because I doubt that you really have the ability to love anything if you don't have the ability to love everything.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, that is, I think so many of us, we deal with our life situation by trying to run away or trying to make the moment better or trying to fix all of our problems
Yeah.
or trying to earn our way through the day by having a very specific schedule and a calendar and a to-do list, and we have to check all the things off, and that's a holy day and that's a
Right.
good day. And we talked about this last week, and like, last week we talked about actually what if you just stop doing everything. And now I think what we're saying is like, it's a little bit of the like construction, deconstruction, reconstruction conversation we had a couple weeks ago, where it's, you construct this world of who you are, your work, your life, your relationships, your friendships. Okay. Then you deconstruct it. And I think we've talked about that a little bit too with work, with a lot of my friends sort of being like, I don't even know if I like this job. Right.
Yeah.
Or do I even like going to Barry's boot camp? Like, or did I just do it because I felt like I had to? Or everything from like, do I even like drinking alcohol? Or do I just do it because everyone around me is doing it?
Asking these questions is a
deconstruction of your life. And so then once you start to like do this work, and then you get to the point where you can reconstruct things in your life in a way that is coming from a place where you're not grasping at it. You're not trying to force anything, push or pull anything.
You didn't get there from shame.
Hard. You didn't get there from shame, and you didn't get there from desire of love or desire of attention,
and from not enoughness.
You've gotten to these to a place where you are starting to heal. Then all of the pieces of your life can take on that lens. So it's like, whether it's fitness, whether it's work, whether it's, again, everything starts to have a little bit of a different. So I think where I'm starting to go right now, and this is just starting in the last year, 6 months even, is what if I put my time, what is righteous energy? What I have flow, I have life force, I have energy inside of me. What is good for me to put it into? If it's not these, if I've deconstructed and I understand that it's not these things that I was putting the energy into, what is deserving of my energy?
Yeah. This is the exact definition of taking out the furniture and seeing which pieces to put back in. Because where we have this energy, we have this life force, just like you said, where does this go? Like what mountains can I move that now I don't need to move, but now I'm better able to do them because I'm coming at them from a place of restorative energy, of conserving my own energy, of having purpose and an ikigai, right? Ikigai is the purpose in our life. This stuff is really powerful to talk about.
Yeah. And then also, you're not so attached to if it doesn't work out.
Right.
You're putting your energy into something, and then if it doesn't work, or if it changes, or if it shifts, because that is life. It changes and it has problems and it shifts.
Right.
You can handle all of those changes and problems and shifts.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking that this other job, the grass is going to be greener over there, or this other life situation, this other person that I met is going to be better than the partner I already have, or whatever it is that you think might be better, you recognize that it all is going to have its problems and its joys and its beauties, and it isn't about the situation. And so, okay, now I want to make sure that I'm putting my energy into going back to basics. Okay, what are the 3 things that I want to focus on today?
Yeah.
What are the things that I can actually get, like, I actually want to work on?
Right.
The things that I can actually accomplish with my limited time and resources. And then how do I choose to spend my time to be able to incorporate all of that into my life?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the overall purpose? How do I want to spend my precious years on this planet? What you were talking about, to me, I think, takes the whole discourse that's happening on places like TikTok and flips it on its head. Because what we're talking about is a bigger, deeper level of resiliency. What they're talking about is the David Goggins resiliency of no one can tell you what to fucking do because I'm shredded, I'm huge, I'm powerful, I have money. And this is sort of saying, you know what? I have more power because I'm not attached to the outcome. Because the peaceful mind is one that can think well of itself without needing to. The joyful mind doesn't need tomorrow to be
To be
better than
better than
today.
today.
And this is the sort of thing of like, um, it's a little bit like Sadhguru has that one quote that I love so much, where he's like, if you have mastery over your body, you can control about 15% of the outcomes that happen to you. If you have mastery of your mind, you can control about 50% of things that happen to you in your life. And if you have mastery of your whole soul from an integrated, from a holistic, you're living in peace with yourself, then nothing can touch you. Then you
Because it
have
doesn't
more.
matter. Then you're not
Because
trying to control it.
what's the name of this podcast? It's
Right.
called Holding It Fiercely, because fuck them. That's why. Get huge, get cut,
Make money, get
make
yours,
money,
baby.
get bitches.
Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't matter anymore. And that's the crazy thing, is that that's when you know, I think, and I haven't reached it, but I can imagine that that's when you can get to the place where it doesn't actually matter, and you realize it doesn't define your worthiness. You can hold it all a lot lighter, and then it doesn't become so important.
I think I couldn't agree more. And I think that you said I haven't reached it. I think that's going to be the name of the game for the next, hopefully we live for
Right.
50,
Right.
55 more years.
Right.
I think it's going to continually be like, right now in this moment, I feel like that. And I'm back to back on my bullshit a little bit when I'm 70 and when I'm 80 and when I'm 90, but it's going to be still returning to those ideals and remembering how powerful that is, even sometimes when you feel like you're forgetting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is empowering, hopefully in a bigger way than just, if you're in control, no one can tell you what to do. Yeah, we talk a lot in our society about like, I wish I had like fuck you money, or I wish I had, like that is kind of the ideal there. And you're like, okay, I don't think that that's our highest selves. I don't think that's as high as we can go, is just no one can tell me what to do because I got all the cards. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who really has all the cards? Someone that is chained in that way, or someone that's just like, all will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of thing will be well.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get there all the time? No.
Yeah. But then it makes it, and like I'm experiencing this now. I'm trying to figure out my next move and like potentially building this marketing agency.
Yeah.
And now it's all of the effort I'm deciding to put in.
Right.
It's energy and flow that I'm putting into something, and seeds that I'm planting. And I'm starting to see the beginnings of like what that might look like.
Yeah.
And what that could be. And isn't it crazy that it's kind of, I don't know. Do you remember when Liz Gilbert wrote that book, Big Magic? And she talked about like ideas are sort of floating
in the ether,
waiting for you to be ready.
Right.
There's like a godliness in that, I think.
Yeah.
I feel when you are open, when you've opened up, it starts to flow through you.
Yeah.
And there's ideas that can come out.
Yeah. Totally. Couldn't agree more. Also, which is a better place, if we're talking about ideas specifically, which is a better place to have beautiful ideas come through? Sit down. You got to have this done in 48 hours. And get out your notepad and all that. Or just like, let things be. Let things come to you.
Yeah.
When they come to you. I know that there's a lot of business that is like rolls its eyes and doesn't really work that way. But so many of the best ideas that have ever happened came when people were in right relationship with themselves and were calm and were an open conduit for these sorts of things.
Yeah.
He's even talking about the power of saying yes when something comes to you in that way. So Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it when these ideas come and you need to say yes to it, or not. And it's actually so funny. Do you remember that story from Big Magic where she had an idea for something so specific for a story? And it was like this man goes and he's trying to build a highway through Brazil or something like that. And he's his father did these things, da, 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 and he's trying to get in a relationship with this other woman. Anyway, she like kind of started writing something about it. I think that was the story, but she started writing something about it and then abandoned it. And it left her. The whole thing, just like she tried to revisit it later and it was gone. She met some other woman that was writing a story and she was like, yeah, what's your story about? She's like, it's this man that's building a highway in Brazil and his father does this, and he's trying to find a relationship. And she's like, this is exactly word for word what my
That's
story is.
crazy.
It's called Big Magic. It gets pretty woo-woo, but it's also beautiful of just like this thing came in, it was in the ether and it wanted to be born through me, and I said no to it. Rob Bell has this beautiful thing where he talks about Mary. He's like, if you actually look at the Mary story, I know that we like she should be high up on the pillar and all this stuff. He's like, but all she did was she didn't say no. This thing came in and was just like, hey, you're going to birth the Son of Man. And again, we both believe the Bible is a metaphor and not meant to be taken super literally in so many ways. But she's a story of something coming to her that didn't make sense. And she just didn't say no to it. And was like, I will allow this to happen. I will allow this. I will allow my body to be a conduit and a vessel for this thing to be birthed. And that might be the way you feel about this company that you're getting into and
Maybe.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
This thing came in, it felt like it was in right relationship, and you didn't say no to it. And
Right.
That's beautiful.
Right.
And how much more joyous is that than like, what is it? I got to do something.
I got to do something.
Sadhguru says we say we should work hard. We say we should work diligently. What does he say?
Joyfully.
He's like, we should work. Why don't we ever say we should work joyfully?
Right.
Why don't we ever say we should work
And that's
happily?
why doing this project or doing some of the projects that I'm working on, or even some of the ideas that I've got that are not quite there yet, but they're like percolating, I think I'm making space for them, and it's like growing my openness, which is then making it more space for other things to come. It's like this, once you can open the space up and let go of what you were grasping onto, like magic really does start to happen.
Right.
And that's what I feel like I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a magical state of being having faith in that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Having faith that it's going to take some time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be figured out today. It can breathe, and it can open and close a bit before it gets to be right where it's ready to go.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And
I
so
do.
like having the faith, having the space has opened me up to the idea that like, okay, these things are going to come, and then we're going to let them breathe, and then we're going to put some effort and flow into it, and then it's going to come back around, and it is like a magical, it feels very magical.
It feels, couldn't agree more. And it feels very Wu-Wei. Wu-Wei is effortless action. I do recommend people read Alan Watts' The Watercourse Way. And
What is that?
So he's talking about Taoism in it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the core tenets of Taoism is Wu-Wei. It's spelled Wu-Wei, but pronounced Wu-Wei. And it is, it's the idea of exactly what you're talking about, of moving forward in a way that water does, where it doesn't offer resistance, but it is very powerful and has the ability to make the freaking Grand Canyon. But it doesn't go somewhere it's not supposed to. Even Jay Shetty, he was saying one of the best pieces of advice that he ever got was there will be many doors that will open and close in your life. Your job is simply to walk through the open ones. Just find the open ones and keep going through them. A door closes in your face, if we're really attached to it, feels catastrophic, takes all of your wind out of your sails, kicks your ass, and ruins your energy. But okay, that's not for me here. That's not for me here. I've heard so many stories of comedians that were like, I didn't get the job that I thought I was supposed to get.
Totally.
And it ended up being the best thing that happened to me.
Totally.
Ray Romano was applying to be a writer on a late night show or SNL or something, and they were like, no. And then shortly afterwards, he ended up getting his own show. And he it was, that no ended up being the best yes for me because I got to do something that was right for me.
Definitely. Definitely.
And the trick was not being attached to the thing
that's
that
why
I
when you
didn't get.
don't get a certain job or you don't get I told you a couple of weeks ago, I was pretty bummed because I was
Yeah.
excited about this job and I thought I was kind of a shoo-in for it. I
Yeah.
didn't get it. And it's like, but when you can have that faith and that openness, it's like, that's okay. It's okay.
Right.
I can feel bummed about it. I gave myself a couple of days to sit on it and feel it and feel sad and feel disappointed and explore those feelings. And then I gave myself a little bit more time to feel nervous energy about what's next and a little bit of fear. And I let the fear come in and I said, okay, I see you. Like, have a seat at the table, come to the table, let's talk.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, it's been only 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but even in those 4 weeks, because I wasn't gritting my teeth, I can just feel there's some magic in the air.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think there's some hope that just comes from everything that we talk about, and like the reason why we started this podcast was just talking about zooming out a little bit, talking about some of this big picture second half of life stuff. And I think a lot of it's really like hopeful. And that's kind of my wish for myself when I'm not feeling great, and for the world in general, of like a little bit more like, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. A door shutting in your face isn't going to be the end of the world. All this discourse happening. We were talking as we were setting up the cameras about like how vicious so many things are in politics right now, and just like, we're at each other's throats. It's okay. Like we're you know,
you don't have to be attached to all of the everyday back and forth minutia. And in fact, it's not a good use of it's not righteous energy.
Right.
Like, where we put our energy matters.
Yeah.
Where we put our focus matters. I really think that there's something that I'm starting to discover of like, my focus is powerful. And when I can direct it to what I would like to direct it to, that's fertile ground. And I think that, again, back to the working out thing, when I can focus the effort and attention from a holy place of, I want to move and I want to be strong, instead of a place of punishment or whatever. When I can work on something because it's fun and I'm enjoying it and I want to put the effort and flow into it, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's juicy.
And you're saying yes to what is. I feel that the body wants to be moved, and we currently live in a society that doesn't really require it, because we can have anything we want. We have abundance of things in the way we haven't for thousands of years. And I believe that the body loves it and wants to be moved. And that is shown by the way that it responds when I do push myself in that way, healthfully. It celebrates it. And I know that because I feel good and I feel clear-headed and I feel all those things that I mentioned before. And so to me, that is part of why I do want to have people get into right relationship with working out, because how do I put this? Because I want people to be the best version of themselves. And so I don't think everyone needs to be skinny, and I don't think that we need to have these sorts of like toxic and unhelpful body image ideals that we lay on other people. But between two people that are the exact same person, I believe the one that pushes that the one that exerts themselves and moves with their body in a way and listens to their body is going to be happier and healthier and more physically and mentally resilient than one that has chosen not to.
Yeah, and I think that apply that same principle to career.
Yep.
Apply that same principle to relationships, to really anything, right? If we're coming at it from a place of, I want to move healthfully.
Yeah.
I want
the best for you, body. Like, I love you.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. I love you, my body, my person.
Right.
And so, it could even be dancing. It could be painting. It could be singing, right? Like, I keep going back to that conversation we had where you told me that nomadic cultures worked about 25 hours a week.
20 to 25, yeah.
And, so it's like there's time, there's a season, there's a time for everything. There's a
Yeah.
time for rest, there's a time for creativity, there's a time for movement, there's a time for,
Right.
um, right? It's like,
Right.
and like letting go and sinking into that, um, instead of being attached to how you should be spending your minutes to
Right.
maximize your schedule,
Right.
there's like just so much, again, I don't know what other word to use except magic.
Yeah, and abundance. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's living abundantly
Right.
too. I mean, I think did they call it the original affluence or the original abundance? But they were talking about civilizations before the agricultural revolution. That's when we chained ourselves down and we're like, well, I
Mhm.
guess I got to toil in the fields so that we can begin having civilization. But before that, they were like, oh, we lived really well. We ate a ton of
Natural food.
and like varied natural foods. You want to talk about the difference between that pre and post agricultural revolution? We became addicted to one or two staple crops where depending on where you lived in the world, you either ate like potatoes
Potatoes,
or
wheat.
corn or wheat or, but we were eating varied foods. It wasn't taking up all of our time. We were spending time, with things that we love to do, whether it was relationships or sex or games or storytelling or dancing or ceremonies. And it was like, actually, they kind of lived like affluent people are trying to live now,
Mhm.
And so,
Isn't it so funny to think about, like, when Columbus came across to the United States, and they had these tribes of people that were one with nature,
yeah,
that were connected to the earth,
right.
that were hunter gatherers and eating delicious foods and taking care of their community, and like, and back then, these they were referred to as savages.
Oh, like, yeah, these poor
They were the
savages,
ones
right?
like, they were living
Yeah,
true beautiful lives, and then these, you know anyway.
yeah, we're more advanced than you, so you
Right.
are.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
But
part
yeah,
of.
I
Go ahead.
I mean, going back to that, it's how do we build lives that work for ourselves?
Right.
How do we build lives that don't deplete us of our
Yeah,
flow? And
and there's a proactivity in there too, which is kind of what we're talking about. So when we say like there's power in exertion or something like that, we're meaning like how to be beautifully proactive. And I'm able to do it at my best. I'm not able to do it all the time, but like, these it's a great way to ask these questions. I cut you off there, but
no,
like
I
what?
think that you're right. I think, um beautiful proactiveness. That's a really nice way of thinking about it.
Right, right. And part of that proactiveness is setting time for deliberate rest, not whatever's left over I'll use for rest or I'll collapse in front of the TV with Netflix. So I think about this kind of frequently. In some ways, I'm very good about spending my leisure time, and in some ways, I'm not amazing. Like I don't watch a ton of movies and TV. Nothing wrong with that if that's your thing of choice. But in our society, it is pretty like commonplace to be like, let me just order some food, veg out in front of the TV and stuff. And like if that works for you, great. And I think a lot of people will also leave a binge watching session being like, I don't feel great or really that rested, or my eyes hurt, my back hurts. I don't feel great. So for me, a good recharging thing would be something like seeking out an ecstatic dance
Yeah.
or
Or even for me, going to a jam.
a
So,
comedy
a comedy
improv
jam.
jam. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, I don't want to go all the way into the city and
Yeah.
then get on the subway, and like it's gonna be late, and
Right.
then blah.
Mhm.
And then I go and I'm like, that was life
It
giving.
was restorative. Even this right here, I never feel like, oh, I gotta trudge over to Lauren's house to shoot these things. But this is the kind of exertion that is restorative for me. You can maybe
Hmm.
sense it in real time. Actually, your energy has changed in the past however many minutes we've been
Yeah, I
recording.
feel like we warmed up, and
Yeah.
then now we're in the workout, and I'm like, oh, I'm hitting a flow.
Yeah,
But
you
I
hit a
was a
flow.
little like, I
Right.
had to get the cobwebs out.
And sometimes, so actually, let's talk about this because this is kind of a cool blending between the two of, oh, you pushed yourself to go to the gym, Brad, when you didn't really feel like it. It might have looked that way a certain time externally, but what I might have done is said, you know what, I'm going to trust that I feel a little bit lethargic. I think deep down that I actually do want to move, and I'm trusting that when I get into it, there's going to be some sort of flow. And 95 times out of 100 or more, when I do that, by the time I'm there for 10, 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, it's coming back. I'm
Yeah.
feeling this song. All right,
Yes.
Muse is killing it.
Yes.
And I'm ready to jam.
Yeah.
And let's go. And then I hit a few more,
Yes.
throw a few more weights, hit a few more RPMs on the treadmill. And I'm like, oh, good. I did trust that this was there. And I feel great.
That
And I'm
so
glad
often.
I did it.
I feel that so often. You're like, it's how everything works, right? There's a little bit of a uncertainty or a clunkiness at first, and then you get into flow.
Yeah.
There's like a
little bit
off.
of trust. A little bit of trust.
A little bit of trust. Even when you go meet up with a friend for dinner, right?
Yeah.
Or even if you go into a work meeting, there's a clunkiness sometimes in the beginning.
Yeah.
And having that faith to let it be, and like then you can get that, like we may move into this flow state.
Yeah. Pete Holmes had this thing that I thought was great, and I used to do it, and I kind of have fallen off from it. But he said that he would set an intention before he was about to start anything, like a meeting or anything, whether it was business oriented or I'm going to go and seeing a friend I haven't seen in 6 months. But he'd be right outside the restaurant before he walked in, and he would go, how do I want to show up? And he'd be like, what's my intention? And he'd be like, my intention is connection right now, or my intention is making them feel seen, or like some sort of tack. And I thought that was really beautiful.
That's so powerful.
How do I want to show up?
Because again, it's your focus, and our focus is probably the most powerful thing that we have. And so how do I want to show up? Like I used to always have headphones in and a podcast playing everywhere I went. And then I would walk into a jam, walk into a dinner with friends, walk into anything or work. And I wouldn't give myself the moments before to turn off the podcast or whatever. And I have started to do the very same thing before I'm going into a dinner with a friend, before I'm going into a meeting, before you and I start recording, taking the time, taking a few deep breaths. And I haven't done the intention thing, but that's really cool. Like, what do I want? What am I bringing to this? What energy am I bringing to this? And then you're going to get that energy out of it.
Yeah. Just like choose it. And so this is a little bit of when we talked about that beautiful proactivity, even when we're talking about like relationships or something, like how amazing would it be for so many people's relationships, marriages and stuff, if, again, it's hard to do it every time, but if you're like, I'm having a date night with my significant other, here's how I want to show up for this, right? Versus just like, hey, what's up? How's your work today? Like, and I get it. Like, I'm not married. It's easy for me to say all this stuff, and it's easy to say that for day 70 versus day 7,000.
Yeah, anything. I think with any relationship,
with any relationship, and you can tell when someone's really there, and when someone has like that intention's a big thing.
100%. You can feel it too when somebody isn't there and they're coming in and they're just like, hey, how's it going? And then they're harried and then they sit their phone upright on the table and you're like, okay, that's setting a tone too. Or that's setting the tone of what this interaction is going to be too. And so, I think there is a lot that we can do to have more meaningful interactions with each other.
Right. You did this for me right now. You've got a one of those like massage guns right over there. But you mentioned right as we were getting ready to film, you're like, I feel like I haven't been in my body all day long. Right? James Joyce, the Dubliners, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. But you were like, I feel like I've been outside of my body. And you notice sometimes I do this thing where I can like hit various parts. I don't know if you can hear that on the mic, but I'll hit various parts of my body to put sensation into my body and be like, okay, just notice where you're making contact right now. And it's a nice place it's a little bit of a be here now kind of reminder for myself. And you were doing that with your massage gun, being like, I want to feel the muscles. And it kind of is all pointing in the same direction of not being passive, but being like, what things can I figure out will help me be my best me, show up as my best me, right? And now you're
Have the best. I mean, I'm sure there's been so many times in my life where I've gone to a meeting or whatever, any kind of exchange, and I wasn't mentally there,
yeah,
or I wasn't thinking about who was going to be there and what the interaction could be like and what intention I was hoping to get out of it. And it, I didn't get the connection, or I didn't get the job, or I didn't get the person to agree to do the project that I was hoping that they would agree to do, whatever the case might be. But or even the friend, I didn't, it's like, why am I going to spend 4 hours with a friend if I'm going to be on my phone the whole time? Because now I'm not going to feel like I had this beautiful time with my friend. I'm going to feel like I had half-assed time with my friend. I still took up the same amount of time out of my life.
right.
It took up the same amount of credit card value on my credit card. It took up the same amount of commute time to get there and home.
Right.
I just didn't bring energy that caught the flow.
Yeah.
Because I was distracted.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the flow is an important word to use there too. Like, how do you find the flow? Trust the flow will come.
Yes. And I think that's if last week we were talking about how did we find the rest, the opposite is how do we find the flow? And I think those live so beautifully together.
Right.
That's why this isn't two completely different opposite conversations. It's
one all the same. It's two sides of the same coin. How do you trust the rest? How do you trust and sink into the rest? How do you trust that the flow is there and that you can be powerful within that? So this is a little bit, you're exactly right. And this is a little bit of why I get turned off. I don't want to be judgmental about it, but I don't like some of the rhetoric on social media that perpetuates, I'm such a piece of shit, or my face when anyone asks me to do anything, or when you have to get out of bed, or you know what I mean? Any of this stuff, it's okay, because that's fine. And we are pushed in our society to do a lot of things that aren't healthy and natural. And so
or that we don't want to do.
Or that we don't want to do. I understand where it's coming from.
Yeah. So it's of course I want to hide under the covers.
Right.
Ordering Netflix and not speaking to any other humans all day.
And I love my Netflix,
bed. Ordering food, watching Netflix, and not wanting to talk to anybody else. Of course, totally. Because I've absolutely depleted myself with energy that I didn't want to give.
Right.
I gave away my life force to things I didn't want to give it to.
Right. And we are possibly in a little bit of a privileged position, because I do frequently think about someone that maybe is is it appropriate to use unskilled worker? I don't know, but someone that is yeah, man, I got to toil in an Amazon warehouse for 10 hours a day, busting
minimum wage worker or something.
Yeah.
And
so
absolutely.
My heart does go out to people that are I got to lift boxes for 12 hours a day.
Of course I want to come home and do nothing. Of course I'm depleted.
Right.
And unfortunately in this capitalistic society that we do that to people. We believe that there are people that are worthy of rest and people that are not worthy of rest.
Right. Right.
I mean, the whole idea of pull yourself up by the bootstraps is that,
Yeah. Right.
Build it yourself because you're not worthy unless you prove it.
Right. Right.
So yeah, totally.
Right.
But I also understand on the other side of that, the energy of I just want to curl up in my bed all day. Why that annoys you, or is that the sentiment?
It's so maybe my examples are pointing more towards rest and relaxation. Some of them can be a little bit I'm a useless piece of shit. You know what I mean? I feel like it would have been better if I had come with specific examples ready to go. But there are some times where they'll just be why does anyone do anything? Why does anyone? There can be in the meme space, there can be things that will confuse actively participating in this beautiful way with the hashtag grind, or with, that person is just, psychotic, capitalistic, all these things. And I'm no.
Are you just saying because it's so binary, the internet doesn't leave a lot of room for nuance?
Possibly. I'm just saying I have seen people sort of squander their energies because it's kind of cool sometimes to be I'm a useless piece of shit. I mean, I don't know. this maybe I'm not conveying my my thought process really great, or maybe you don't follow the same meme pages that I do, or there's a few people on my Instagram that I could pull up in their stories right now, and it'd be like, look at these examples
Right.
of like I don't like I basically they'll kind of put on a pedestal the idea that I don't want to do anything, and I don't think that is the answer. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that people actually don't want to do anything. I think people do want to live abundantly and have energy. And even right now, we're doing an unpaid podcast because it makes us feel great.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week with your friends who said you have to have a job. You must have a job in order to be a healthy member of this society.
Right.
And it's like
even if money's taken care of, like you have to have a job.
You have to have a job.
Right.
And I think what you're saying is like this, like, oh, I don't want to do anything, but that's also not true.
That's also not true.
So it's not.
And that's not true of me either.
Right.
You know?
But again, there's a huge area in between those two.
Right.
Of I don't want to do anything and you must have a job.
Right.
Of, well, how about the middle?
I want to thrive in right relationship, and I want to exert myself in that way. I mean, even in
righteous energy.
Yeah. And even in Rudyard Kipling's If, he talks about like the ability to run the unforgiving minute. Like, this is how, I know he says you'll be a man and there's all that stuff, but like,
yeah,
there's
I don't know what you're actually the reference.
Oh, it's Rudyard Kipling's famous poem called If, and he says all sorts of things of like, if people can say things bad about you behind your back and you just let it roll off your back, this is something worth going after. And one of the things is if you can run the unforgiving minute, just because you're a human, like, you know, like this is part of what living well means. That doesn't have anything to do with a job. That doesn't have anything to do with whatever. But like, there's a joy in expressing life energy that I think can be lost in the conversation.
That's why I connect so much with the Peter Attia centenarian decathlon thing, because the idea that
what's the Peter Attia
the centenarian decathlon is you know, when you reach your 80s, 90s, even up to 100, like how could you still carry your groceries?
Oh, okay.
Pick up your grandchildren.
Got it.
Walk around the block.
Got it.
Take out your trash. Walk up and down the steps. And how and the things that you have to do to prep yourself. Like your grip strength needs to be X in order to carry your own groceries 30 years later.
I see.
You know, so it's like that. The reason that speaks to me so much is because it's the life force that I want to express. I want to do it joyfully.
Right.
I think that's why I connect with it so much. I want to be able to joyfully carry my groceries home.
Right.
And joyfully pick up my grandchild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, what a wealth is that going to be?
That's wealth.
Later on.
Yeah.
What do they say? They say a healthy man wants 1,000 things. A healthy man wants 1,000 things. A sick man only wants one.
What's the one?
What do you think? A
Money.
sick man? Money? Just to be
healthy.
Is video games, surprisingly.
Sorry, a healthy man
wants 1,000 things. A sick man only wants one.
Right. Oh, wow.
But like, that is going to be, you know, and especially when life expectancy is getting so much longer, that is a way that I want to also show up for myself when I'm 90 years old is, you know, and again, you can tell, how is someone holding it? Is this person, did they get there by being a psycho about counting every little calorie and pushing themselves in a way? Or did they get there because they said yes to their body and they maintained physical resiliency through things like yoga and dancing and strength training?
I saw a very funny meme the other day of a girl who was like, my boyfriend's been listening to Andrew Huberman, and he basically, it's like a day in the life. It's fake. But he's like it's like his first 4 hours of the day are like starting with like an ice bath, like you know, sunning your perineum, you know, like doing oil pulling.
I think I saw that, and I love the line where he was like, she's like, what are you doing right now? He's like looking at the sun. He's like, I'm doing early morning sun exposure. Look into it. No, seriously, look into it. And he just like stares wide-eyed into the sun until like his eyes are trembling. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, but like there's a line.
There's a problematic maximization of
Right.
of okay. Because that's how Andrew Huberman got to the top of
Well,
how do we maximize
every ounce of the and suck the marrow out of every ounce of this this life? I think it's actually not sucking the marrow out of this life. It's sucking your energy now so that you can have more years later.
Right.
There's a saying in Italian, I hope I don't get it wrong, but it's living like a dead man so you can die like a healthy one.
Ooh, I like it. Is that a song?
And they'll say that when they're singing, when they're smoking cigs, or it's like, I don't want to live like a dead man so I can die a healthy one. And there's, again, balance.
Right.
Third way, you know? It's like,
it's all of it. So when people are like, oh, like if they listen to one episode, they'll be like, oh, Brad, you're just one of these people. Yeah. And I'm also the total opposite. Like, this is why it doesn't make sense to a lot of people's rational minds to have someone be like, yeah, it's this and it's its opposite.
It's this and the opposite.
No. You got to tell me the one thing. You got to scream at me like David Goggins.
Right. Exactly. I want to wake up and crush.
I want to wake up and crush.
Yeah.
And you're garbage if you're not. And okay, and it's also as opposite. Well, so you're one of those like resters. You're one of those people that doesn't do anything.
You want to sit under the covers all day.
No. Right. It's also its total opposite. Welcome to the world of paradox. Welcome to why we get excited about talking about this stuff.
I mean, it's funny because we always go back to the same themes. It's like we're going back to the deconstruction, reconstruction, creating the life creating your version of life that works for you with the things that you can control, which is your focus, which is your attention, which is your rest, your relaxation, your ability to not grasp.
Yeah.
You know, even like Nelson Mandela, when he was in prison, like he was like, well, they can't put my mind in prison. I wasn't in prison.
Right.
You know?
Or Jack Cornfield's story about the two guys in prison, and one guy's like, have you ever forgiven your captors? And he's like, no, never. And he's like, oh, then you'll never be out of prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do return to several themes. The good news is that like there's kind of only a few real themes that are actually out there that are like real and getting us excited.
I know.
And the second thing is I need to hear something 700 times before.
So do I.
Like this is part of us living it. That's why we are seekers talking about us on our journey. Like this is, we bring our best selves and our best philosophies to this. But yeah, no, I feel good about it. And I feel energized also when I push myself, and then I feel energized when I let myself relax. Mm-hmm. Either way, both of them, I want to hold them with open hands.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's it, baby.
Okay. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.